And what was that? Did you see something go flying? Let's do that again. Woo. And action. Welcome back to Show and Tell. I'm Billie. I'm coming to you from my 9th floor apartment in Manhattan, where most of you who follow the news may be aware that the former president of the United States has been on trial. And I posted a picture on Instagram, but I've already shredded the document. Unfortunately, I meant to hold on to it so I could show it to you. I got an envelope. I'll put a picture at least. I got an envelope that said, jury duty. I've been called for jury duty many times in the over 50 years that I've lived in New York, but I was really hoping to be called a few weeks ago when that trial began. Looks like they're planning on calling me pretty soon, which is very exciting because you know what? You can sit there most of the day and knit, which is great. Uninterrupted, no telephones, no computers, just like knitting all day long until they call you. Anyway, New York is always bubbling, popping, and in between my knitting, I try and do some other things. So if you're interested in my wanderings about town, do stay on till the end of this episode because I'm going to show you some jazz things and some stuff about the Harlem Renaissance exhibit at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Always my focus is obviously on vintage. So be on the lookout for that towards the end. But now let's get on with the knitting. This is my Rimska sweater. I had almost completed the entire thing. I have knit this sleeve to where I think its final length will be. It's going to be 3/4 length. I'm partway done this sleeve. I've already stitched the raglan shaping into place, so the sleeve is already connected to the front panels. And I had completed both of the front panels and bound both of them off. The back is obviously also done. But when I tried it on, I found that I had far too much fabric. So this whole section that I have clipped, all of this strip all the way up is excess fabric. Yes, I could have turned it under and just stitched it into place. There's no button band on this. It's going to have a big white satin ribbon tying it together. And I'm planning to use it as a bed jacket. So it's kind of like lingerie. There's a French woman in one of my knitting groups that I frequent who told me that in France, they call it une liseuse. I'm not sure of the spelling, and I checked on Google Translate. I can't find such a word, but bed jacket is maybe not that common a term. I don't know. If any of you know how to spell that, let me know in the comments. Anyway, I decided that it would be worth recovering twice this amount of yarn because with 3/4 length sleeves, I could make some kind of a gauntlet that would keep my arm warm for the days that I really wanted it. I just thought it was too wasteful to turn all of that under. So as is my usual practice when I have to rip back something, I try not to rip back the entire thing and then feel like empty inside, like what have I accomplished? So rather what I did was I ripped back this whole side up to here where it starts going down straight. So I'm still elongating it on this side, but the center part I'm trying to knit straight down. And it's tricky with lace patterns because of all the yarn overs and knit twos together, knit threes together, the stitch count is often changing in specific places. So I've had to devise my own chart, and it's not perfected yet, but my intent is to knit this down. And let me grab the back. So I really only have this width times this length, and I may end up making it a little shorter than I initially had. Really, that's a few days of knitting. It's not so bad because now I don't have to refer very much to the chart. I know the routine. It's a 10-row repeat, and I can generally tell where I'm at within those 10 rows. So that's a beautiful thing. After doing this whole thing in lace, I kind of have mastered the chart. Once I'm done this side, then I'll go back and rip out the other side up to about here. So I don't have to navigate this section, which was hard because you're increasing on both sides. It's something that I want to finish before I buy new yarn to cast on a new project. And believe me, I have several things in mind that I am just jonesing to knit and share with you. But I've kind of made this promise with myself that you should finish some things, Billie, before you go out buying cashmere, because I'm looking at cashmere for next project. Okay, so that's project number 1 in progress. Project number 2, which I particularly wanted to share with you today as I am packing for an out-of-town trip, a quick jaunt to Florida to check in on my father-in-law who was hospitalized and has been in rehab for a couple of weeks. I won't have a lot of time to knit while we're there because there's so much to be done, but I do have 2 flights, which again, you know, that's sort of that treasured magical time when there's no phones, no computers, nothing to interrupt me. I can watch a movie on the plane and knit. My takeaway project, or my carry out project, has been for years now this green lace scarf called the Ibiza lace shawl and scarf. So I have done this much in case you have never seen it before. And it's supposed to be grafted midway to another section. Well, I don't know if I'm going to have enough yarn to do 2 pieces this long. I might, but I wanted to show you my before, and then when I come back from the trip, I'll show you the after. Because I don't generally make a lot of progress on this from episode to episode because I'm knitting on other things. I'm trying to finish up other things, and I know this is really long term, not looking to complete anytime soon. But it is my thing when I know I'm going on the subway, or if I'm going to be in a taxi, or if I have to wait at the doctor's office. This is the thing that I just throw in my handbag. It takes up no space, and it'll keep me occupied for short stints of time. Like this morning, for example, I was at the doctor's office for blood work. I had to wait about 5 minutes for the phlebotomist to call me in. So while I was waiting, I was able to knock out just 1 row, but in this, every row gets me closer and closer to the goal. I think I'm showing you the wrong side of the fabric, not that you could tell, but I believe that's the right side. They're very similar. Anyway, this is the length of where I'm at. Take a good look, because when I come back from Florida in my next podcast, I will show you how much progress I have made on this. And I think there should be a noticeable increase. So that's whip number 2. Oh, in case you were interested, this yarn is between cobweb and lace weight from Color Mart. I think they call it lace weight. 2/30 NM is their nomenclature. It's very fine, as you can see. And this thickness right here represents probably still many, many yards of yarn. To begin with, it was 730 meters. And I used a little bit of it in my Jennie. And then this is the only other thing that I've knit with it. So I have a fairly good amount left. Anyway, that's it. It goes in this little mesh bag and on the plane. And I don't expect there to be any problems because this is the needle I'm bringing with me. It looks very non-threatening. Next up, work number 3. These are almost done, and I just didn't devote the time to doing all the finishing touches on them, but I had knit Jennie Atkinson's lace gloves. Let me hold them both up. I think I will only model them when they're completely 100% done, but they fit great. I still have a little bit of finishing to do right here. There's supposed to be a button and a loop. And I guess I would love to have your input. My friend Sabina gave me these little pearlized buttons. They're small, they're 3/8 of an inch. Now they are white, but I also have from my Jennie, I ordered extra buttons. I still have these. Let me take it out of the bag so you can see it in the nude. These are slightly larger than the white ones, but they're pink. In terms of it being on here, I think the pink is fine. Of course, the white would be fine too. But I'd love to know from you which you prefer. This doesn't look too big, does it? And last but not least, this is the progress that I've made on the back of my Tyrolian sweater. I've done a Ukrainian / Russian kind of folk motif. And I'm starting my surprise, well, there's going to be some floral thing here, like the kokloma lacquerware that's popular in Russia. I had knit quite a bit of it, but I didn't like how it was coming out. So I think pretty soon you're going to have to start calling me the Queen of the Rippers or something, because it seems like just about every sweater I knit, I have to rip back. And you know what? If you're a newish knitter, take that in stride. It is kind of part of the process. We're always learning, we're always tweaking, we're always improving. If you want to have something that you're proud to wear, that you're not embarrassed to wear, if you want something that's well-fitting, sometimes it means pulling something back and redoing it to get the shape that you want. This particular sweater I had knitted, and it seemed, when I put the front and the fronts and the back together, I thought it's going to be a little too oversized, and this is supposed to be a fairly fitted garment. Now, I don't have an ideal figure, so I don't need something to fit me snugly, but I also don't want it to be voluminous. So I didn't want to rip out all of this color work that, I just couldn't wrap my head around. So I'm kind of cheating a little bit. I have extra fabric over here. I bound off, and now I'm knitting up from this width instead of this width. And what I'll do is this extra fabric, I think it's hard to see because it's so dark, but I have a narrow piece of extra fabric here. I'm just going to fold that into the seam, and it'll be on the inside of the sweater where no one will see it. I suppose I could steek and just cut it off, but for now I'm leaving it here, and I hope that I'll have a better silhouette to the sweater from having done that. without getting involved in ripping all of this out. Of course, one could rip this out, but life is too short. The yarn that I'm using in this project is from Morehouse Farm. It's their merino, 2 strands, sport weight. They sell these smaller balls that they call scoops, like a scoop of ice cream. And it's just whatever they have left over from a run. So each one has a different length and it's marked on the ball band. This was 17 grams, 65 yards. Some of the other colors have slightly different yardage. Like this pink one, for example, was 20 grams, 75 yards. And this is the band from the red, 22 grams, 83 yards. Which is fine for this particular project. It's not gonna set me back in any way. I think I'll have just enough. Okay, so that's kind of all I have for you at this moment. I think with all the ripping back on 2 of my main projects, it cuts down on my throughput, which for me, as I've mentioned before, is really ideal. I have a limited amount of space in my apartment. I can't knit 8 or 10 or 12 sweaters a year. I just wouldn't have the space. Think about it. After 10 years, you might have 120 sweaters. I simply don't have the room. That's why I don't hesitate to rip out. I'd rather have something that I enjoy wearing, even if it took me an extra 3 months or 4 months or an extra year, whatever. It's fine. And that's why I'm doing like the little gloves, sometimes I'll throw in a smaller project in between, a baby sweater, so that I at least have a sense of completion, because I think that's very satisfying and fulfilling. It's a balancing act, like everything else. Okay, I am holding the brochure from the recent symposium that my husband and I attended at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And before I even tell you about it, I was so excited because the director of the Metropolitan Museum himself was in attendance, which I wasn't expecting. I've been to other colloquia there and he's not usually there. But for this particular one, he was in the audience. He kicked off the day with a short introductory remark. But there were a couple of breaks throughout the day, and during one of the breaks, I noticed that he was standing alone, looking around. No one came over to talk to him. So I approached him. His name is Max Hollein. He's Viennese and he has a pretty thick German accent. You can find him speaking on YouTube videos that are put out by the museum. In those videos, he always seems very professional, very sort of like buttoned down. In person, I found him to be completely charming. And I was so proud to tell him that now that I'm retired, I've been on a mission over a long period of time to visit every single gallery in the building. The building goes from 80th Street to 84th Street in Manhattan, 4 city blocks long. It's a significant size building. And really only a fraction of their holdings are on display at any one time. And they do rotate things, especially if they're special exhibits. But you can never see all of the objects, but the number of rooms is finite. I don't know exactly what that count is because I haven't been counting the galleries. What I've been doing is, I should probably show you the map. Yeah, let me grab the map. Here's my rather beat up map of the Metropolitan Museum. The 3 main floors, the ground floor, first floor, second floor. I carry it in one of my handbags. I have it with me a good part of the time. They come out with new maps all the time because they keep changing the configuration of the building. But basically, the museum is organized into 14 encyclopedic departments. So there's arms and armor, the American wing, medieval art, European sculpture, decorative arts, Greek and Roman art, Egyptian art, European paintings, and so on. And what I've tried to do, because those galleries are all clustered together, like this is the American wing, this is all American art. Each one of these little boxes is a separate gallery. And the American wing is a little bit unique in that it spans more than one floor. So just below that is this, which is also American wing. I've tried to do one curatorial department at a time. And I think I've done about 80% of the museum. So I was very proud to tell him, like, tease him a little bit that because I'm retired, I have the time to do this. And he said to me, it's something he's always wanted to do, but he's not retired. And I said to him, well, you're welcome to join me. We could do it together. Wouldn't that have been fun if he said, oh, what a great idea. He was very polite, very charming.
Harlem Renaissance and the transatlantic modernism. I want to thank each of you also for joining us. This will be a truly exciting, and intense, and multifaceted day, bringing together, of course, renowned scholars, curators, artists, but really also us as a community.
Yes, right now, there, for all the vintage lovers out there, there's this wonderful exhibit of the artists of the Harlem Renaissance. The themes of the paintings, there are a lot of portraits of famous African Americans, some of whom stayed in Harlem, some of whom migrated over to Europe. Think Josephine Baker, for example. But there were authors, poets, artists, photography, this wonderful photographer, James Van Der Zee. I took a bunch of pictures. I'll put them here. I'll throw some music under it for you to enjoy them. So first I saw the exhibit. I spent a few hours walking through the exhibit the day before this symposium, which they called the Harlem Renaissance and Transatlantic Modernism, a creative convening. And they had experts come and talk on different topics. The keynote speaker was a woman named Isabel Wilkerson. She's written a couple of best-selling books. I'll put the title of one of them on the screen and in the show notes. They had someone from the National Portrait Gallery in Washington. They had a professor of art and art history from Duke University speak. They had a current day artist as well as representatives from the Dance Theater of Harlem and the National Black Theater. So a lot of these were conversations amongst groups of people. One of the most interesting ones were the representatives from historically Black colleges and universities who have art collections. Fisk University, Howard University, Clark Atlanta University, and Hampton University. They talked about their collections and how they came to loan some of their pieces to the Metropolitan Museum for this very special exhibit. Of course, if you're coming to New York, I think the exhibit is on until July. Check the Met's website, but you still have time to see this.
And at the first opportunity, you step away.
Right when? There?
That would be fine.
Okay.
It's important for us to identify sort of the ideas and the principles that really anchored these performers as they took on this task. They identified the a lot of these films, but this one is recognizing James Weldon Johnson. So they're giving the sort of purpose of what they're doing for this piece, for this short film, this film that was about a feature-length film, and to think that these individuals are doing this in the period of the teens, the 30s and the 40s. So I just wanted to sort of highlight that this work really embodies a lot of the things that would be reminiscent in paintings we would see by Archibald Motley, perhaps. You could see works by many other artists and painters. The scene, how he's setting it up, I thought about where he's playing gamblers. I'm like, this could be the liars or the plotters by Archibald Motley. There are important notions that we again experience when we're walking through the exhibition and understanding sort of that energy that these artists are conveying in many of their portraits.
Along a similar theme, my friend Deborah proposed an evening out at a local photography museum called Rimska, where they had like a jazz combo, and these guys were playing ukulele and slide trombone and snare drums, really like cute music. I couldn't resist recording some of that to share with you too. So here we go. Don't forget to come back at the end so I can say goodbye to you.
I never knew what love could do until I met you this day. expenses aggravate all our cares. We'll save our fares. I've a cozy little flat in what is known as Old Manhattan. We'll settle down right here in town. We'll have Manhattan, the Bronx and Staten Island too. It's lovely going to a zoo. It's awfully fancy on Delancey Street, you know. The subway charms the sun as balmy breezes blow to and fro. And tell me what street compares with Mott Street in July. Sweet pushcarts gently gliding by. The great big city, so wondrous toy, just meant for a girl and boy. We'll turn Manhattan into an isle of joy.
I hope you enjoyed all of that. I look forward to seeing you when I get back from Florida. Take care, everyone. Enjoy the beautiful weather.